The early morning light, a soft blushing apricot, spilled through the tall arched windows of the gilded page, painting stripes across the worn oak floorboards. Elara Vance took a deep, contented breath. The scent of old paper and freshly brewed coffee a familiar comfort that settled deep in her bones. This was her sanctuary, her quiet kingdom nestled in the heart of Oakhaven, a town so picturesque it often felt lifted from the pages of a storybook itself. Elara loved these liminal hours before the world fully woke. With a gentle hum, she moved behind the counter, her fingers deftly measuring coffee beans, the low grind of the machine a soothing counterpoint to the chirping sparrows outside. Her bookstore wasn't just a place to buy books, it was a haven. A small, inviting cafe nook occupied the front, offering steaming mugs and quiet corners, while the shelves beyond stretched like ancient forests, each tree laden with untold tales. There were worn armchairs by the fireplace, their cushions softened by countless readers, and a window seat that looked out onto the cobblestone Main Street, usually bustling but now peacefully deserted. She traced the spine of a leather-bound classic, a well-loved copy of Wuthering Heights, before placing it back on the display table. Elara believed books had souls, that they whispered their stories not just through words, but through the faint scent of their pages, the gentle curve of their spines, the way they lay open, inviting you in. Her own life, she sometimes thought, was a series of quiet whispers, the rustle of turning pages, the soft clink of ceramic mugs, the hushed conversations of her patrons. She liked it that way. It was a gentle life, rich in imagination and the simple joys of connection, even if those connections were often through the proxy of a shared love for fiction. As the first customers began to trickle in, Mrs. Gable, a retired history teacher who always ordered a black tea and a new mystery, young Leo, who raced in with his mother for a picture book and a warm milk, Elara greeted them with a warm, genuine smile. Her dark, wavy hair, usually tamed in a loose braid, often escaped in soft tendrils around her heart-shaped face, framing eyes the color of warm honey, always alight with a spark of curiosity and kindness. It was mid-morning when the bell above the door chimed, a sound Elara usually barely registered amidst the gentle bustle. But this time, something felt different. A man stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the bright outside, casting a long shadow into the cozy interior. He was tall, with broad shoulders that filled the frame, and a stillness about him that drew Elara's gaze. He stepped further in, and the light caught his face. Strong lines, a faint stubble that softened the angles, and eyes. They were the color of deep moss, a rich, earthy green that seemed to hold both ancient wisdom and a quiet introspection. His hair was dark, almost black, falling casually across his forehead. He wasn't dressed like the usual Oakhaven tourist or a local. His clothes were practical but well-fitting, a dark unbuttoned denim shirt over a simple t-shirt, worn jeans. He carried an air of quiet purpose, like a person who knew exactly where he was going, even if he wasn't quite sure why he'd ended up here. His gaze swept around the bookstore, taking in the towering shelves, the inviting armchairs, the soft glow of the lamps, and finally, it settled on Elara behind the counter. A small, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips, a fleeting ghost of amusement, or perhaps simply pleasure at the sight of the space. "Good morning," Elara said, her voice a little softer than usual. She felt an unfamiliar flutter in her chest, a tiny bird taking flight. "Good morning," he replied, and his voice was a low murmur, a warm baritone that resonated through the quiet hum of the shop. It was the kind of voice that made you want to lean closer, to hear the secrets it might whisper. I've just arrived in town. Your shop looked inviting." Elara's smile widened. "It is, I hope. What can I get for you?" He paused, his eyes still roaming, as if committing the details of the room to memory. Coffee, please. Whatever you recommend. And do you have a quiet corner available?" "We have plenty," Elara assured him, gesturing vaguely towards the back where a few secluded nooks nestled between shelves. "Our house blend is quite popular, a medium roast, or we have a darker, bolder option if you prefer." "The house blend sounds perfect," he said, his gaze returning to her. For a moment, their eyes locked, and Elara felt a strange current pass between them. It was more than just polite acknowledgement. It was a spark, a tiny flicker of recognition in the depths of his green eyes. As she prepared his coffee, a rich, earthy aroma filling the air, She noticed the way his fingers drummed a soft rhythm on the worn wood of the counter. Not impatiently, but thoughtfully. He seemed to be observing everything, taking it all in with a quiet intensity. "Here you go," she said, placing a steaming mug before him. Its ceramic warmth radiated into her fingertips. "Thank you." He took a sip, his eyes closing for a brief moment in appreciation. "Excellent. Really excellent." "I'm glad you like it," Elara replied, feeling a warmth spread through her own chest that had nothing to do with the coffee. "I'm Rhys, by the way," he offered, extending a hand over the counter. His grip was firm, warm, and brief. "Rhys Thorne." "Elara Vance," she responded, feeling the pleasant tingle of his touch linger on her skin. "Welcome to Oakhaven, Rhys." "Thank you, Elara." He gave her another one of those quiet, almost smiles, then turned, coffee in hand, and wandered deeper into the labyrinth of books. Elara watched him go, a strange sense of anticipation stirring within her. He chose a table tucked away near the history section by a window overlooking a small, blossoming courtyard. He didn't pull out a phone or a laptop, but instead simply sat, sipping his coffee, his gaze lost among the spines of the books. The rest of the morning passed in its usual rhythm, but Elara found herself glancing towards Rhys' corner more often than she usually would. He remained there for a good hour, simply existing, a quiet presence that somehow amplified the tranquility of the store rather than disrupting it. When he finally rose to leave, he paused at the counter again. "I didn't get a chance to browse properly," he said, a hint of regret in his tone. "But I'll be back. This place, it has a good feeling." "We'd be happy to have you," Elara said, her voice genuinely pleased. He nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I'm working on a project nearby, renovating the old town hall. I'll be in Oakhaven for a few months." Elara's heart gave a little leap. A few months. That was a long time in small-town terms. "Oh, that's wonderful. The town hall needs some love. What's your expertise?" "Landscape architecture," he explained. "Restoring the grounds to their original glory and making them more accessible and beautiful for the community." "That sounds like a beautiful project," Elara mused, imagining the dusty, overgrown grounds of the town hall transforming under his touch. "I hope so," Rhys said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Well, Elara, until next time." And with another nod he was gone, leaving behind the lingering scent of coffee and a faint, almost imperceptible whisper in the air. Over the next few days, Rhys Thorne became a quiet fixture in Elara's mornings. He would arrive shortly after the shop opened, always ordering the house blend, sometimes with a pastry. He never hurried. He would choose a different corner each time, sometimes by the travel guides, sometimes by the poetry, but always settling into a comfortable silence, simply reading the spines of books or gazing out the window, a thoughtful frown often creasing his brow. Elara found herself looking forward to his arrival, a subtle hum of anticipation starting in her chest each time the bell chimed. She noticed the small details, the way he held his mug, cradling it as if for warmth, the faint scar above his left eyebrow, the way his eyes, when he wasn't lost in thought, seemed to take in everything with a gentle, discerning curiosity. One crisp Tuesday morning, as she placed his coffee on the counter, he finally spoke beyond the usual pleasantries. "Elara, I wonder if you could help me. I'm looking for something specific, but I'm not sure it exists." "Try me," she said, leaning forward slightly, intrigued. "I'm trying to find something about the history of Oakhaven's natural landscape, specifically before it was settled. Old maps, botanical illustrations, local folklore about the forests and the river." He paused, a sheepish smile playing on his lips. "It's for the town hall project. I want to incorporate elements that truly reflect the original spirit of the land." Elara's eyes lit up. This was her element. "Oh, that's a wonderful idea. Let me think. We have some local history books in the Oakhaven section, but for really old maps or specific botanical records, you might have to dig a bit deeper. Have you tried the town archives or the historical society?" "Or the historical society?" "I've started there," he admitted, running a hand through his dark hair. "But it's a slow process. I was hoping perhaps an old book, a forgotten volume might exist here. Something with a more personal touch, perhaps. A journal or local tales passed down." "That's a beautiful thought," Elara murmured, a genuine warmth spreading through her. She loved the idea of unearthing forgotten stories. "Come with me. Let's see what we can find." She led him to the far corner of the shop, a section usually reserved for rare and antique books, where the air was thick with the scent of aged paper and leather. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight that pierced the high windows. Most of these are donations from old Oakhaven families, she explained, her voice hushed, as if speaking too loudly might disturb the sleeping stories within. They're not always cataloged perfectly, but sometimes we find real gems. Reese followed her, his eyes wide with a quiet awe. He moved slowly, respectfully, his fingertips brushing lightly against the spines of books as he passed. "This is incredible," he whispered, his voice as soft as the rustle of pages. "It's like stepping into another time." "It is, isn't it?" Alara agreed, a shared understanding passing between them. They spent the next half hour in companionable silence, Alara occasionally pulling out a book she thought might be relevant, while Reese browsed with an almost scholarly focus. He had a way of handling the old books, turning the brittle pages with a gentle reverence, as if he could hear the faint whispers of their past. She found an old, leather-bound volume titled Flora and Fauna of the Oakhaven Valley, published in the late 1800s, with intricate hand-drawn illustrations. Reese's face lit up when he saw it. "This is exactly the kind of thing I was hoping for," he said, tracing the delicate lines of a fern drawing. "The detail is incredible." "It is," Alara agreed, leaning closer, her shoulder almost brushing his. She could feel the warmth radiating from him, a subtle, comforting presence. "See how they depicted the riverbend? It's almost unchanged. And the descriptions of the trees," he added, his voice low. "The way the light fell through the canopy. It's not just scientific, it's poetic." They shared a moment, lost in the pages of the old book, a silent understanding passing between them, a shared appreciation for the beauty of nature and the artistry of the past. It felt easy, natural, as if they had known each other for years, sharing a quiet passion. "I'll buy this, of course," Reese said, finally looking up, his green eyes meeting hers. There was a spark in them, a genuine delight that was almost childlike. "It's a lovely find," Alara smiled. "I'm glad we could help." As she rang him up, she felt a comfortable intimacy settle between them. "So, for the town hall, you're trying to recreate a sense of this ancient landscape?" "Precisely," he nodded. "I believe that when we connect to the roots of a place, its true character, we create something more enduring, more meaningful. It's not just about planting trees, it's about telling a story through the land." Alara felt a thrill go through her. "That's beautiful, Race. Truly. I feel the same way about books. Each one holds a story, a history, a whisper of lives lived or imagined." He smiled, a full, genuine smile this time, and it transformed his face, chasing away the earlier introspection. "I think we understand each other, Alara Vance." From then on, their conversations grew longer, deeper. Reese would still settle in his quiet corner, but now he would often seek out Alara, not just for coffee, but to share a discovery from his work, or to ask her opinion on a book he'd seen. He talked about the challenge of working with old stone, the joy of uncovering forgotten pathways, the way the light shifted through the ancient oaks he was preserving. Alara, in turn, found herself sharing more of her own world, her favorite authors, the stories behind some of the unique items in her shop, her dreams for the Gilded Page. She learned that Reese had traveled extensively for his work, restoring historical gardens and landscapes across the country. He spoke of vast estates and wild, untamed national parks, but always with a quiet reverence for the land itself. He seemed to carry a gentle melancholy, a subtle weariness that occasionally clouded his green eyes, a hint of a past that he didn't yet share. But in Oakhaven, and especially in her shop, he seemed to be finding a quiet solace. One rainy afternoon, the kind where the drops drummed a steady rhythm on the old slate roof, Reese was curled in an armchair by the fireplace, engrossed in a novel he'd picked up from the staff pick shelf, a historical fiction Alara had highly recommended. He looked up when she brought him a fresh cup of coffee, unasked. "Thank you, Alara," he said, his voice soft, his gaze lingering on her. "You always know." She smiled, feeling a blush creep up her neck. "It's a chilly day, and you look deep in thought." "I was," he admitted, closing the book and placing it carefully on the side table. "This book, it's wonderful. It makes me think about how much history is hidden, just beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. Like the old foundations we're finding under the town hall grounds. It's like that with people too, isn't it?" Alara mused, taking the seat opposite him. We all have layers, stories beneath the surface that aren't always immediately visible. Reese's gaze held hers, thoughtful and intense. I think you see more than most, Alara. You have a way of looking at the world, and at people, that feels open and kind. Her heart fluttered again, a little stronger this time. She felt truly seen, truly understood, in a way she hadn't often experienced. She found herself wanting to know more about his layers, the stories hidden beneath his quiet demeanor. And you, Reese, she replied softly, you seem to have a deep respect for what lies beneath. In land, and perhaps in people too. A shadow, brief and fleeting, passed through his eyes. I try to, he said, his voice a little lower. He hesitated, then continued. I've spent a lot of my life moving from one project to the next. Oakhaven is the longest I've stayed in one place in years. Is that a good thing? Ilara asked gently. He looked around the cozy bookstore, the flickering firelight casting dancing shadows on the shelves. It feels grounded, like this place. And your company makes it feel even more so. Ilara's breath hitched. The compliment, delivered in his soft, sincere voice, felt like a warm embrace. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the rain whispering against the windows, the crackle of the fire filling the air. The unspoken words between them were almost palpable, a delicate thread weaving its way through the quiet comfort. Ilara, he eventually said, breaking the silence, his eyes fixed on the dancing flames. Would you let me buy you dinner sometime? As a thank you for all your help with my research and just for the company. Ilara's heart gave a joyful leap. It was what she had hoped for, silently, unknowingly, since that first morning he had walked into her shop. The whispers in her heart had been growing louder with each passing day. She met his gaze, a genuine radiant smile blooming on her face. I would like that very much, Reese Thorne. The rain continued its gentle serenade outside, but inside the gilded page, a new story was beginning to unfurl, quietly, beautifully, like the first tentative leaves of spring. The whispers had found their voice, and Ilara felt a thrilling anticipation for the chapters yet to come. Reza's smile deepened, a soft crinkle at the corners of his eyes that made him look less like the formidable architect, and more like a man who appreciated the quiet beauty of the world. Wonderful, he said, his voice a low rumble that resonated pleasantly in the cozy space. How does Friday evening sound? I know a charming little place, not far from here, that serves the most incredible pasta. Ilara's heart gave a little skip. Friday. That gave her just enough time to feel a delightful flutter of nerves, and perhaps to pick out a dress. Friday sounds perfect, Reese. I would love that. He nodded, a sense of quiet satisfaction settling over his features. Excellent. I'll pick you up from here, say, 7 o'clock. 7 it is. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling as comforting as a well-loved blanket. As Reese turned to leave, he paused at the doorway, looking back at her. The light from the window caught the fine mist of rain on his dark hair, giving him an almost ethereal quality. Until Friday, Ilara, he said, his gaze lingering for a moment longer than strictly necessary, a silent promise in his eyes. Until Friday, Reese. She watched him disappear into the evening, the gentle chime of the bell marking his departure. The shop suddenly felt both emptier and fuller, charged with the vibrant energy of unspoken possibilities. Ilara spent the rest of the afternoon in a pleasant haze, her fingers tracing the spines of books, her mind replaying the soft cadence of his voice. The thought of Friday evening was a little beacon, glowing brightly in the days ahead. When Friday finally arrived, Ilara found herself humming as she moved through her morning routine. She chose a dress of deep emerald green, its soft fabric flowing gracefully around her, a subtle echo of the forest. She styled her hair in soft waves, a few tendrils framing her face, and opted for simple, elegant jewelry, a silver pendant shaped like an open book, a gift from her grandmother. As 7 o'clock drew near, a delightful mix of nerves and excitement danced within her. She lit a few candles in the shop, the warm glow reflecting in the polished wood, creating an inviting ambience. Precisely at 7, the bell above the door chimed, and there he was. Reese Thorne. He wore a dark blazer over a crisp, light-colored shirt, and the sight of him sent a fresh wave of warmth through Elara. He looked even more handsome than she remembered, his quiet strength radiating outwards, his eyes, the color of a stormy sky just before the rain breaks, alight with a gentle anticipation that mirrored her own. "Elara," he said, his gaze sweeping over her, a faint, appreciative smile touching his lips. "You look stunning." A blush crept up her cheeks, but she met his eyes, a genuine smile on her face. "Thank you, Reese. You look very distinguished yourself." He offered her his arm, a gesture both old-fashioned and utterly charming. "Shall we?" The restaurant, Il Nido, the Nest, was indeed charming. Tucked away on a quiet side street, it exuded a rustic elegance, with exposed brick walls, soft lighting from wrought iron chandeliers, and the comforting murmur of conversation. The air was filled with the tantalizing aroma of garlic, herbs, and simmering tomato sauce. Reese guided her to a cozy table in a secluded corner, where a single flickering candle cast dancing shadows. "It's beautiful, Reese," Elara said, her eyes taking in the details. "I thought you might like it," he replied, a hint of pleasure in his voice. "It's a place for quiet conversations and good food." Over bowls of steaming pasta, hers a delicate ravioli with sage butter, his a robust lamb ragu, their conversation flowed easily. They spoke of their day-to-day lives, discovering small commonalities. Reese, to Elara's surprise, had a keen interest in vintage maps and antique globes, a passion he pursued in his free time. "There's a story in every line, every faded name," he explained, his eyes alight. A journey through time, a glimpse into how the world was once perceived. Elara found herself enchanted. "That's wonderful, Reese. I can imagine. It's like a book, but drawn in cartography." She shared her own quiet joys, the satisfaction of finding a rare first edition, the delight of helping a child discover the magic of reading, her love for long, rambling walks through the nearby botanical gardens. "The botanical gardens," Reese mused, a thoughtful look on his face. "I've often walked past, admired the gates. Perhaps, sometime, you could show me around?" "I'd like that very much," Elara said, a soft warmth spreading through her. The idea of sharing her quiet sanctuary with him felt natural, inviting. Their conversation drifted from books to architecture, from the changing seasons to the comforting rhythm of their small town. Reese spoke of his work with a quiet passion, describing the challenges and rewards of bringing structures to life, of blending old and new, of creating spaces that felt both functional and beautiful. Elara listened intently, appreciating the depth of thought and care he put into his craft. She saw a reflection of her own love for stories in his dedication to creating enduring spaces. As the evening deepened, a comfortable ease settled between them. There were moments of companionable silence, not awkward, but filled with unspoken understanding. Their eyes would meet across the flickering candlelight, and a gentle smile would pass between them, a silent acknowledgement of the growing connection. Elara found herself drawn to the steady presence of Reese, the quiet strength that emanated from him. And she sensed in him a deep appreciation for her own quiet world, for the gentle soul that resided within her. When the waiter brought their espressos, Reese reached across the table, his fingers gently brushing hers as he moved the sugar bowl closer. A small spark, a delicious jolt, went through Elara. Her gaze met his, and for a fleeting moment, the world outside Il Nido seemed to fade away, leaving only the warmth of the candle, the soft murmur of conversation, and the undeniable pull between them. The walk back to the Gilded Page was accompanied by a clear, starry sky, the rain having long since ceased. The air was crisp and cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke. They walked side by side, their shoulders occasionally brushing, a comfortable rhythm developing between them. At her doorstep, under the soft glow of the street lamp, they paused. "Thank you, Reese," Elara said, her voice soft. "Tonight was truly lovely. The food, the conversation, everything." "The pleasure was all mine, Elara," he replied, his eyes searching hers. "I very much enjoyed getting to know you better." He hesitated for a moment, then reached out, his thumb gently tracing the line of her jaw. The touch was feather light, yet it sent a shiver of delight through her. "I was wondering," he began, his voice a little lower now, "if you would consider joining me for a walk in the botanical gardens this Sunday, perhaps a picnic?" Elara's heart fluttered. "I would like that very much, Rice." A genuine smile, slow and warm, spread across his face. Excellent. I'll prepare the picnic. How about we meet at the main gates around 11? 11 it is, she confirmed, her voice barely a whisper. He leaned in slightly, and for a breathless moment, Ilara thought he might kiss her. Instead, he simply met her gaze, his eyes full of a quiet promise, a gentle warmth that spoke volumes. Good night, Ilara. Good night, Reese. She watched him walk away, his silhouette disappearing into the shadows of the street. Only when he was completely out of sight did she finally turn the key in the lock, her heart still humming with a sweet, happy melody. The whispers in her heart were no longer whispers. They were a growing chorus, singing of possibility and burgeoning affection. Sunday morning dawned bright and clear, promising a perfect day for an outdoor adventure. Ilara dressed in comfortable trousers and a soft knit sweater, a scarf tied loosely around her neck. She packed a thermos of her special spiced tea and a small tin of homemade shortbread cookies, a little offering to complement Rice's picnic. She arrived at the botanical gardens a few minutes before 11, the air fresh and fragrant with the scent of damp earth and awakening blossoms. The main gates, intricate wrought iron gates, adorned with intertwining leaves and flowers, gleamed in the morning sun. Soon she spotted him. Reese was already there, leaning against a stone pillar, a wicker basket at his feet. He wore a casual sweater that emphasized the breadth of his shoulders, and his dark hair was slightly ruffled by the gentle breeze. He looked utterly at ease, and her heart gave a contented little thump. Good morning, Reese, she greeted him, her smile wide. He straightened, his eyes lighting up as he saw her. Good morning, Ilara. Perfect day for it. Wouldn't you agree? Absolutely perfect. As they entered the gardens, Ilara felt a familiar sense of peace settle over her. The paths wound through groves of ancient trees, past vibrant flower beds, and alongside tranquil ponds. She pointed out her favorite spots, the hidden rose garden, still largely in bud but promising an explosion of color, the serene Japanese garden with its raked gravel and moss-covered stones, the ancient oak tree whose branches seemed to embrace the sky. Reese listened intently, occasionally asking a thoughtful question, his gaze lingering on the details she cherished. It's truly a sanctuary, he observed, as they walked beneath a canopy of blossoming cherry trees, their delicate pink petals drifting gently to the ground like confetti. I can see why you love it here. It's a place where stories unfold in nature, Ilara replied, smiling. Every season brings new characters, new plots. They found a secluded spot near a small bubbling brook, shaded by a weeping willow. Reese carefully spread out a blanket, then unpacked the picnic basket. He had prepared an array of delights: crusty bread, artisanal cheeses, ripe figs, thinly sliced prosciutto, and a small bottle of sparkling elderflower press. This is wonderful, Reese, Ilara exclaimed, genuinely impressed. You've outdone yourself. He offered her a shy smile. I enjoy cooking, when I have the time. It's another form of creation, I suppose. As they ate, their conversation deepened further. They spoke of childhood memories, Ilara's quiet upbringing surrounded by books, Rice's more adventurous tales of exploring construction sites with his father, who had also been an architect. They shared dreams and aspirations, and even some gentle fears. Ilara confessed her occasional worry about the future of independent bookstores in an increasingly digital world. Reese, in turn, spoke of the pressure to always innovate, to leave a lasting mark, and the occasional loneliness that came with a demanding career. But it's also incredibly rewarding, isn't it? Ilara mused, looking out at the sun-dappled water of the brook. To create something beautiful, something enduring. It is, he agreed, his gaze fixed on her. And to share it with someone who understands, that's even more so. A comfortable silence settled between them, punctuated only by the gentle gurgle of the brook and the distant chirping of birds. Ilara felt a profound sense of contentment, a feeling of being utterly at ease in Rice's presence. It was as if she had known him for a lifetime, yet every moment with him felt fresh and new. After the picnic, they lingered, sipping Ilara's spiced tea, the warmth seeping into their hands. Reese, much to Ilara's delight, pulled out a small leather-bound sketchbook from his bag. I often bring this, he explained, a slight flush on his cheeks. Sometimes, a particular curve, a play of light, inspires me. He flipped through a few pages, revealing intricate sketches of architectural details, but also surprisingly delicate drawings of flowers, tree branches, and even a fleeting charcoal sketch of a sleeping cat. Elara gasped softly. "Rhys, these are incredible. You're a true artist." He looked genuinely pleased by her praise. "Just a hobby, a way to observe the world more closely." "It's more than a hobby," she insisted, her fingers tracing the delicate lines of a sketched magnolia blossom. "There's such beauty and emotion in these." She looked up at him, her eyes shining. "You have so many hidden depths, Rhys Thorne." He met her gaze, a warmth spreading through his own. "Perhaps. And you, Elara, are a treasure trove of quiet wonders." Later, as they walked back towards the main gates, the sun beginning its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and rose, Elara felt a lightness in her step, a joy that bubbled up from deep within her. Rhys had taken her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers naturally, as if they were meant to be there. His touch was warm and reassuring, a silent promise. "Thank you for today, Rhys," Elara said, squeezing his hand gently. "It was truly perfect." "Thank you, Elara, for sharing your sanctuary with me." He paused at the gates, turning to face her, his thumb stroking the back of her hand. "I've never had a picnic quite like it, or a companion quite like you." Elara's heart swelled. She met his gaze, her own eyes reflecting the setting sun. There was so much she wanted to say, so much she felt, but the words seemed inadequate. Instead, she simply leaned in, and this time Rhys did not hesitate. He lowered his head, his lips meeting hers in a soft, tender kiss. It was a kiss that tasted of elderflower and spiced tea, of sunshine and quiet promises, of burgeoning affection and deep unspoken understanding. It was gentle, hesitant at first, then deepened, a silent declaration that transcended words. Elara felt herself melt into it, her fingers curling around his, holding on as if to anchor herself in the beautiful moment. When they finally broke apart, breathless, the world seemed to hum with a new, vibrant energy. Rhys's eyes were soft, a tender smile on his lips. "Good night, Elara," he whispered, his voice a little husky. "Good night, Rhys," she replied, her voice equally soft, her cheeks flushed. She walked home in a blissful daze, the memory of his kiss a sweet warmth on her lips, the feel of his hand in hers a comforting presence even after they had parted. The gilded page welcomed her back with its familiar scent of old paper and quiet stories. But now, it felt different. It felt imbued with the promise of new chapters, written not just in ink, but in shared glances, gentle touches, and the quiet blossoming of love. Over the next few weeks, their connection deepened with each passing day. Rhys became a regular fixture in Elara's life, his visits to the gilded page a welcome punctuation to her quiet days. He would often bring her a small gift, a rare first-edition poetry collection he'd stumbled upon, a carefully pressed autumn leaf he'd found on a walk, a cup of her favorite artisanal coffee. These gestures, small and thoughtful, spoke volumes of his attention and care. They spent evenings exploring the quiet corners of their town, discovering forgotten historical markers, sharing quiet dinners at Elara's cozy apartment, where the aroma of her herb garden mingled with the scent of old books. Elara introduced Rhys to her favorite authors, reading aloud passages from cherished novels, her voice soft and melodic. Rhys, in turn, shared stories of his architectural projects, sketching out designs on napkins, his passion evident in every line. One blustery Saturday afternoon, a sudden downpour trapped them inside the gilded page. Rain lashed against the windows, creating a soothing rhythm. Elara was perched on a rolling ladder, reshelving a collection of classic literature, while Rhys sat in a comfortable armchair, reading a book of poetry I'd picked up. The only sound was the rain and the gentle turning of pages. Elara, reaching for a particularly high shelf, lost her footing for a moment. A small gasp escaped her lips. Before she could truly falter, Rhys was there, his strong hands steadying the ladder, his gaze instantly concerned. "Careful there, Elara," he murmured, his hand still holding the ladder firmly. "You nearly took a tumble." "Thank you, Rhys," she said, her heart thumping a little faster, partly from the near fall, partly from his proximity. She looked down at him, his face close to hers, his eyes warm and reassuring. He didn't move away immediately. Instead, his gaze softened, lingering on her lips. "Perhaps," he said, his voice a low rumble, You should let me handle the higher shelves from now on. Elara chuckled softly. A knight in shining armor, always ready to rescue a maiden from a perilous stack of novels? Something like that, he replied, a gentle smile playing on his lips. He finally released the ladder, but his hand brushed her arm as he did so, sending a familiar warmth through her. He remained close, looking up at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Elara, he began, his voice dropping. I find myself looking forward to every moment I spend with you, more than I thought possible. Her heart swelled. And you race, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. You've brought a new light into my quiet world. He reached up, cupping her cheek with his hand, his thumb gently stroking her skin. His touch was tender, reassuring, and full of a quiet reverence. You are a remarkable woman, Elara, and I feel incredibly fortunate that I walked into this shop that day. Elara leaned into his touch, her eyes closing for a moment, savoring the warmth, the connection, the sheer rightness of it all. The whispers in her heart had grown into a symphony, a beautiful, harmonious melody that filled her every fiber. She opened her eyes, meeting his gaze, a radiant smile blooming on her face. Me too, Reese, she whispered. Me too. The rain continued its song outside, but inside the gilded page, their story continued to unfold, page by beautiful page, a testament to serendipity, quiet affection, and the enduring magic of finding your perfect companion in the most unexpected of places. The chapters ahead promised even more warmth, more shared laughter, and a love story as timeless as the books that surrounded them. His gaze, still locked with hers, held a depth that made her heart flutter like the wings of a trapped butterfly. Only this butterfly was free, soaring. The world outside, with its persistent rain and the distant rumble of traffic, faded into a soft hum, leaving only the quiet pulse of their shared breath. Reese lifted a hand, a gesture slow and deliberate, and gently cupped her cheek. His thumb brushed over her skin, a feather-light touch that sent a shiver of warmth through her. Elara leaned into it, her eyes closing for a moment as she savored the sensation, the undeniable rightness of his touch. When her eyelids fluttered open, Reese was smiling, a soft, tender curve of his lips that reached his eyes, crinkling the corners. He leaned in slowly, giving her ample time to respond, to pull away if she wished. But Elara didn't want to pull away. She yearned for it, this quiet, long-anticipated moment. Their lips met, a gentle, exploratory touch at first, a silent question and an immediate answer. It was a kiss that tasted of rain and promise, of old paper and new beginnings. It wasn't a demanding kiss, but a soft, lingering one, a delicate unfolding that spoke volumes of shared understanding and burgeoning affection. It was the kind of kiss that felt like coming home, settling into a beloved armchair with a cherished book. When they finally parted, it was only by a breath, their foreheads still resting against each other, eyes closed, just breathing. Elara, he whispered, his voice a low rumble against her ear, sending delicious tingles down her spine. You have no idea how long I've wanted to do that. She chuckled softly, a sound of pure contentment. Oh, I think I might have an idea, Reese. It's been a long time coming. They stayed there for a while, simply holding each other amidst the comforting scent of books and brewing tea, the rain drumming a peaceful rhythm on the roof. The unspoken promise of their connection hung in the air, tangible and beautiful. Eventually, Reese pulled back just enough to look into her eyes again. So, he began, a playful glint in his eyes. Does this mean I finally get to take you on a proper date? One that doesn't involve me pretending to browse the non-fiction section for an hour? Elara laughed, a clear bell-like sound that echoed softly in the quiet store. It means, Mr. Hayes, that you are officially invited to take me on a proper date. And perhaps, she added, a mischievous sparkle in her own gaze, I might even let you pick the book for our next shared read. Reese feigned a gasp of theatrical shock. Such generosity. I shall endeavor to choose wisely. For our first official date, how about dinner? Somewhere quiet, where we can talk, really talk. Perfect, Elara agreed, her heart full. How about Friday, the little bistro on Elm Street? They have the best lamb shank in town, and a quiet corner table perfect for talking. It's a date, Reese confirmed, his grip on her hand tightening reassuringly. He lingered for a few more minutes, helping her tidy a few stray books, their fingers brushing more often than strictly necessary, each touch a small spark of joy. When he finally had to leave, promising to call her the next day, the bookstore felt both emptier and fuller than before. Emptier without his physical presence, but fuller with the vibrant hum of possibility he had left behind. The days that followed were a delightful blur of anticipation and discovery. Their first official date at the little bistro was everything Alara had hoped for. Reese was an attentive listener, drawing her out about her dreams for the Gilded Page, her passion for forgotten authors, and the quiet satisfaction she found in connecting people with stories. He spoke of his own architectural projects, not just the grand designs, but the careful thought behind each line, the way a building could shape lives and communities. He revealed a surprising love for old maps and the intricate stories they told of changing landscapes and human endeavor. They talked for hours, the easy flow of conversation punctuated by comfortable silences and shared laughter. Reese had a way of looking at her, a focused intensity that made her feel utterly seen, truly heard. He walked her back to her apartment above the bookstore, the streetlights casting long shadows, and beneath the warm glow of the Gilded Page's sign, they shared another soft, lingering kiss, a gentle affirmation of the evening's success. Their dates continued, each one weaving another thread into the tapestry of their burgeoning relationship. They explored a local art gallery, Rise explaining the nuances of perspective and light, Alara pointing out the stories she saw in the brushstrokes. They spent a drizzly Saturday afternoon in a tucked-away cafe, sharing a giant slice of lemon meringue pie and reading excerpts from their chosen book, a quirky historical fiction Reese had found. He even introduced her to his favorite park, a sprawling expanse with ancient trees and a hidden stream, where they walked hand in hand, talking about everything and nothing. Alara found herself falling deeper into the quiet charm of Reese Hayes. He was steady and thoughtful, with a dry wit that often caught her by surprise, making her laugh out loud. He noticed the small things, the way she tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear when she was deep in thought, the specific blend of tea she preferred, the faint scent of old paper that always seemed to cling to her. He started leaving her small, thoughtful gifts. A rare edition of an architectural treatise he knew she'd appreciate, a beautifully illustrated map of their city from a century ago, a small, perfectly smooth river stone had found on one of his site visits. Reese, in turn, found himself increasingly captivated by Alara. Her passion for books was infectious, her intelligence sharp yet gentle. He loved the way her eyes lit up when she spoke of a favorite author, the way she made every customer feel like a valued friend, the quiet strength that hummed beneath her serene demeanor. He found himself drawn to the cozy warmth of the Gilded Page, not just for Alara, but for the sense of peace it offered. He'd often stop by during his lunch break, not to buy a book, but just to see her, to share a cup of tea and a few stolen moments of conversation amidst the shelves. One crisp autumn afternoon, as leaves swirled in golden eddies outside the bookstore, Alara was wrestling with a particularly stubborn shelf of oversized art books. Reese had stopped by, ostensibly to return a book but clearly just to see her. He watched her for a moment, a small smile playing on his lips as she grunted softly, trying to re-shelve a heavy volume. "Need a hand there, librarian?" he offered, his voice warm with amusement. "Oh, very funny, Mr. Architect," she retorted, feigning exasperation but secretly pleased by his presence. "These art books are heavier than they look. My arms are starting to feel like overstuffed encyclopedias." Reese chuckled, then stepped forward, easily taking the heavy book from her. "Allow me. Looking at this section, and indeed the entire layout, it's charming, Alara, truly. But there are a few places where the flow could be optimized, for both you and your customers." Alara paused, genuinely intrigued. "Optimized? What do you mean?" He gestured vaguely. "Well, for instance, the way this corner feels a little dark, even with the lamp. Or how the children's section, while delightful, could perhaps have a cozier, more enclosed feel. A story cave, if you will. And this reading nook," he pointed to a well-worn armchair near the window. "It's wonderful, but imagine if it were slightly recessed, with perhaps a small, built-in shelf for tea and a book." Alara looked around, suddenly seeing her beloved bookstore through his eyes, the eyes of someone who understood space and light and human interaction on a deeper level. "A story cave. I love that idea," I've always wanted to do more with the children's section, make it even more magical. But I just don't have the eye for it, or the architectural know-how. Reese turned to her, his expression softening. Well, as it happens, I might know a guy. An architect even. He's quite good if I do say so myself, and he has a particular fondness for charming bookstores, and they're even more charming owners. Her heart gave a little leap. Are you offering to help me redesign parts of the Gilded Page? Only if you'd let me, he said, his gaze earnest. It wouldn't be a grand, disruptive renovation, just thoughtful, incremental improvements. Things that would enhance the experience, make your life easier, and preserve the inherent magic of this place. I'd love to help bring some of your visions to life, and maybe even add a few of my own. The idea thrilled Elara. To work with Reese, to see his creative mind at play within the walls of her sanctuary, felt like a natural, exciting step. Reese, that would be incredible, but I don't want to take up your valuable time, or for you to feel like you have to do this out of anything but genuine interest. He took her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her knuckles. Elara, my genuine interest in you, and in this wonderful place you've created, is boundless. Consider it a passion project, and a chance for us to spend even more time together, collaborating on something we both care about. And so their collaborative project began. Reese would sketch ideas on tracing paper, his strong hands moving with practiced ease, explaining his vision for improved lighting, a more intuitive flow between sections, or the creation of a dedicated whisper nook, a cozy, semi-enclosed space with plush cushions, and a low, warm light, perfect for solitary reading or intimate conversation. Elara, in turn, offered her insights into reader habits, the specific needs of different genres, and the overall feel she wanted to maintain. They spent evenings poring over blueprints spread across her small kitchen table above the bookstore, mugs of herbal tea steaming between them. Reese listened intently to her suggestions, often incorporating them in surprising and elegant ways. He taught her about spatial awareness, the psychology of color, and the magic of well-placed light. Elara in turn introduced him to the intricate world of bookbinding, the history of typography, and the almost spiritual connection readers felt to their physical books. The first major undertaking was the story cave for the children's section. Reese designed a whimsical curved structure, reminiscent of a tree hollow, with built-in benches, soft, colorful cushions, and a ceiling painted with glowing stars. He even sourced a local artisan to carve small, friendly forest creatures into the wooden archway. Elara meticulously curated a collection of enchanting children's books to fill the new shelves, her eyes sparkling with delight as she envisioned young readers nestled within its comforting embrace. They worked on it together, often after closing hours, their laughter echoing softly through the quiet store. Reese, with his precise measurements and careful carpentry, and Elara, with her artistic eye for decoration and her knack for finding just the right shade of paint or fabric. There were moments of playful disagreement, quickly resolved with a compromise or a shared smile. He taught her how to use a power drill, and she taught him the delicate art of dusting antique bindings. One evening after a particularly productive session, they sat cross-legged on the floor of the newly framed story cave, surrounded by sawdust and the scent of fresh wood. Reese leaned back against the unfinished wall, a contented sigh escaping his lips. "You know," he said, looking at her, his eyes soft in the dim light filtering in from the main store. "I've never worked on a project quite like this. It's different from designing a skyscraper or a museum. It feels more personal, more immediate." Elara reached out, brushing a stray piece of sawdust from his hair. "Because it's a space designed for comfort, for imagination, for quiet joy. It's a space where stories come alive. And you, Rice, are bringing that to life for so many children." He caught her hand, holding it gently. "And you, Elara, are the heart of it all. This bookstore, it's not just bricks and mortar, or even just books. It's a haven. And working with you, it's been one of the most rewarding experiences of my career and my life." Her heart swelled with a warmth so profound it almost hurt. She squeezed his hand. "The feeling is entirely mutual. I never imagined I'd find someone who understood my world so completely, and who could help me build it, quite literally, even better." As the weeks turned into months, the bookstore slowly transformed, subtly but beautifully. The Whisper Nook became a beloved fixture, a quiet haven where customers could lose themselves in a book, a steaming mug of tea at hand. The lighting was softer, more inviting, highlighting the books without being intrusive. The flow of the store felt more natural, guiding visitors from one intriguing section to another. Through this shared endeavor, their relationship deepened immeasurably. They learned each other's rhythms, their strengths, their quirks. Alara discovered Rhys's meticulous attention to detail, his unwavering patience, and his surprising talent for singing off-key when he thought no one was listening. Rhys learned about Alara's quiet resilience, her deep empathy, and her uncanny ability to find the perfect book for anyone who walked through her door. They started spending more time in each other's spaces, too. Rhys would cook dinner for Alara in his sleek modern apartment, the countertops cleared of blueprints for the evening, the aroma of garlic and herbs filling the air. Alara, in turn, would bring him freshly baked apple turnovers from the bakery down the street, and they'd share them with coffee in his sun-drenched living room, talking about their day, their plans, their quiet dreams. One evening, as they were enjoying a rare evening off, curled up on Alara's sofa above the bookstore, a storm raging outside, Rhys turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "You know, Alara, before I met you, my life felt structured, predictable, satisfying in its own way, but perhaps a little too neat, too organized." He paused, looking into the dancing firelight in the small fireplace. "And then you came along, and with you, this wonderful, messy, beautiful world of stories and possibility. You've brought so much warmth, so much color into my life. It's like discovering a secret garden hidden behind a perfectly symmetrical hedge." Alara smiled, her heart brimming. "And you, Rhys, you've brought structure and quiet strength to my beautiful chaos. You've shown me how to build, not just literally, but emotionally, how to make my dreams tangible, and how to trust that someone can truly see and appreciate all the rambling paths of my mind." She reached for his hand, intertwining their fingers. "You make me feel safe, and seen, and endlessly cherished." He squeezed her hand, his gaze meeting hers, full of an affection that made her breath catch. "Cherished, Alara? That's exactly how I feel about you, too." They spent the evening in comfortable silence, listening to the rain and the crackle of the fire, the quiet contentment of their shared presence wrapping around them like a warm blanket. The gilded page below them was dark and silent, but imbued with a new vibrant energy, a testament to the love that had begun to bloom within its walls. Their love story wasn't one of grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but rather a gentle, steady unfolding, like the turning of cherished pages in a beloved book. It was built on shared smiles over steaming mugs of tea, on the quiet understanding exchanged across a stack of old manuscripts, on the comfortable silence of working side by side, on a project dear to both their hearts. It was a love that found its rhythm in the everyday, in the small acts of kindness, and the profound joy of simply being together. Each day brought new discoveries, new layers of affection, and a deeper appreciation for the serendipity that had brought an architect and a librarian together in a little bookstore on a rainy afternoon. The chapters ahead promised a lifetime of such gentle joys, each one more precious than the last. Their days settled into a comfortable, rich rhythm, each sunrise bringing new opportunities for shared delight. Leo found himself spending more and more evenings at Clara's cozy apartment, eventually moving in, his minimalist aesthetic gracefully merging with her abundant world of literature. Shelves that once sagged solely under the weight of stories now also held architectural models, sketchbooks filled with intricate designs, and a growing collection of art books they discovered together. He'd sketch new concepts for the community library project on his tablet, while Clara, curled in her armchair, read aloud from a new acquisition, her voice a soft melody that wove itself into the quiet hum of their shared presence. They'd cook simple, comforting dinners together, the scent of herbs and garlic mingling with the faint, comforting aroma of old paper and freshly brewed tea. Leo learned to appreciate the quiet communion of a shared silence, broken only by the rustle of a page or the gentle click of a pen, finding in it a profound peace he hadn't known he craved. Clara, in turn, found herself increasingly fascinated by the blueprints Leo brought home, the way lines and angles could translate into vibrant spaces where life unfolded. He taught her to see the intricate skeleton beneath the skin of a building, and she showed him the boundless soul held within the pages of a book. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, from the philosophical depths of literature to the practical elegance of structural design, each topic enriching the other. The community library project, their beautiful brainchild, slowly but surely took shape. They celebrated each milestone, the groundbreaking ceremony, the first wall rising with the promise of future stories, the installation of the custom-built, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, with quiet satisfaction and a shared meal, often a picnic on the very grounds of the nascent building. It was more than just a building. It was a testament to their collaboration, a physical manifestation of their growing love, a space designed not just for books, but for connection and community. One crisp autumn evening, as the library's exterior walls reached their full height, promising a grand opening in the spring, Leo led Clara not to their shared home, but to a small secluded park they often visited. The air was cool, carrying the earthy scent of damp soil and newly fallen leaves, rustling beneath their feet like whispered secrets. He guided her to a weathered wooden bench beneath an ancient oak tree, its branches now bare against the deepening twilight sky, reaching like gnarled fingers towards the heavens. "Clara," he began, his voice a little softer, a touch more resonant than usual. "Remember that first day? In the bookstore? I thought I was just looking for a new coffee table book, maybe something on Scandinavian design." He chuckled softly, a warm, reassuring sound. "Turns out I was looking for a whole new chapter, a whole new library for my life." Clara's heart fluttered with a delightful anticipation she hadn't felt since their first tentative touch. She turned to face him fully, her eyes, usually so calm and reflective, now sparkling with a mixture of hope and tenderness. Leo reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, velvet box. It wasn't a grand, theatrical gesture. The depth of feeling in his eyes, however, was more powerful than any fanfare. "Clara, you've filled my life with stories I never knew I was missing. You've built rooms in my heart I didn't know were empty, filled them with light and laughter and the quiet joy of simply being. I want to spend every single one of my chapters with you, from the preface to the very last page. Will you marry me?" Inside the box, nestled on a bed of cream satin, was a ring. Not a flashy, oversized diamond, but an elegant silver band, intricately carved with a tiny, subtle pattern that resembled the graceful spine of an old, beloved book. In its center, a small, luminous sapphire glowed, the deep, enchanting color of a twilight sky just before the first stars appear. It was perfect. Utterly, uniquely, einem. A delicate balance of artistry and timeless beauty. Tears welled in Clara's eyes, blurring the edges of the world around them. "Yes, Leo," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, barely audible above the rustle of leaves. "1,000 times yes, more than I could ever say." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and it felt as though it had always belonged there, a seamless extension of her own story. They sat for a long time, holding hands beneath the ancient oak, watching as the first shy stars pricked the darkening canvas above them, their hearts full of a quiet, profound joy that promised an eternity. Their wedding was a reflection of their love, intimate, warm, and deeply personal. They chose a small, historic conservatory they had discovered during one of their weekend rambles, its soaring glass walls letting in the soft, diffused light of a perfect spring afternoon, surrounded by fragrant blooms and the gentle hum of bees. Clara wore a simple, elegant gown that flowed like liquid moonlight, a delicate lace trim echoing the intricate patterns of an old manuscript. Leo, resplendent in a suit, the color of deep forest green, looked at her as if she were the most beautiful architectural marvel he had ever encountered, his gaze full of adoration and wonder. Their vows were simple, heartfelt promises of shared silences, whispered stories, and a lifetime of building dreams together, each word a brick in the foundation of their future. After a joyful honeymoon spent exploring historic libraries and architectural wonders across Europe, they moved into a charming old house, one Leo had meticulously restored over the past year, blending its rich historical character with thoughtful modern comfort. It became their sanctuary, a place where custom-built bookshelves lined every available wall, where light streamed through large restored windows onto comfortable reading nooks, and where the comforting scent of coffee, old paper, and beeswax was a constant welcoming presence. Leo designed a magnificent, built-in reading bench for Clara by the largest bay window, complete with hidden compartments for her notebooks and a perfect, unobstructed view of their blossoming garden. "One, Dip. Clara, in turn, curated their ever-growing collection of books, each volume a memory, a discovery, a shared adventure, arranging them with the loving precision of a true librarian. Their home was a living testament to their complementary passions, a harmonious blend of structure and story. Years unfolded, each one adding new layers to their love story, deepening its narrative and enriching its themes. The community library, completed with their combined vision and tireless dedication, became a beloved hub in the town, a vibrant testament to their initial meeting and the project that had cemented their bond. They often visited it, walking through its sunlit halls, seeing children lost in the magic of stories, teenagers poring over textbooks, and adults finding solace and connection in its quiet corners. It was their legacy, a living, breathing part of their love, giving back to the community that had brought them together. Their life together was a rich tapestry, woven with the threads of the everyday. They continued their cherished evening rituals. Dinners cooked side by side, long meandering walks through their neighborhood, hands clasped, and the quiet contentment of reading together, sometimes in companionable silence, sometimes with Clara pausing to share a particularly beautiful passage, or Leo sketching a new design idea that had sparked in his imaginative mind. They discovered new shared passions, restoring antique furniture found in dusty markets, nurturing a sprawling garden that burst with color and fragrance each spring, and even learning to make their own artisan paper for special notes and letters, each sheet imbued with personal meaning. Each shared endeavor, no matter how small, deepened their connection, reminding them that love wasn't just in grand gestures, but in the myriad small choices to be present, to listen, to care, to grow together. There were challenges, of course, as there are in any life, for even the most perfectly designed structure can face a storm, and even the most beloved story has its moments of tension. But they faced them together, their hands clasped, their voices calm and understanding, their belief in each other unwavering. Leo was Clara's steady anchor, his logical mind and unwavering optimism a comfort, when her librarian's heart sometimes felt overwhelmed by the weight of the world's stories or the complexities of life. Clara was Leo's gentle muse, her quiet wisdom, boundless empathy, and keen understanding of human nature, often providing the insight he needed to see beyond the lines and angles of his designs, to truly understand the human element, the beating heart, within every space he created. They balanced each other, two halves of a perfectly constructed whole. One blustery winter evening, many years after their wedding, after they had seen their share of seasons come and go, they sat by the crackling fireplace in their living room, the scent of wood smoke and beeswax filling the air with a comforting warmth. Clara was knitting a soft wool scarf for a grandchild, her needles clicking a gentle rhythm that echoed the quiet pulse of their home, while Leo, wearing his reading glasses perched on his nose, was poring over a new architectural journal, his brow furrowed in thoughtful contemplation. Their hair was now threaded generously with silver, their faces etched with the gentle lines of a life well lived, full of shared laughter and quiet understanding. Clara looked up, her gaze drifting over the familiar bookshelves, the warmth of the firelight dancing on the spines of countless beloved volumes. Her eyes came to rest on Leo, lost in his reading, the lamplight casting a warm, golden glow on his contented face. A wave of profound contentment, deep and abiding, washed over her. "Remember that rainy afternoon?" she mused softly, not expecting an immediate answer, just speaking the cherished thought aloud. Leo lowered his journal, a gentle smile spreading across his face, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "How could I ever forget, my love? The day I walked into a bookstore looking for a book and found my whole world instead." He reached for her hand, his touch still as tender, as reassuring, as full of quiet devotion as it had been on that very first rainy day. Clara intertwined their fingers, her thumb stroking the back of his hand, feeling the familiar warmth of his skin. "And I walked into a bookstore," she finished, her voice a soft, loving murmur, "and found the architect of my heart, who built for me a lifetime of beautiful stories." They sat in comfortable silence for a long while, the only sounds the crackle of the fire, the gentle click of Clara's needles, and the soft ticking of an antique clock on the mantelpiece. Outside, the rain began to patter softly against the window panes, a familiar, comforting sound, just as it had on that long-ago afternoon. It was the sound of home, the sound of a lifetime of gentle joys, each one more precious than the last, all built on the serendipitous foundation of a little bookstore on a rainy afternoon. Their story wasn't just a collection of chapters. It was an entire library, continually growing, continually cherished, a testament to a love that had found its perfect rhythm in the everyday, and promised to echo beautifully through all the years to come, a truly timeless tale.